The American left never cared about the fact that the Russian government was funding the American Communist Party for 60 years, which constituted election interference. For a century, the United States and Russia have interfered in each other's politics with spies and funding opposition. The Russian election interference was low-level stuff, not an attack. Choosing to have good relations with a nuclear superpower is not treason. Treason is choosing to come to confrontation with a nuclear superpower in order to derive some personal or political benefit. The only reason the left can appear now as patriotic and can shame conservatives as traitors is that for decades the conservatives have been too polite and have not called leftists traitors for wanting to steal elections with illegal immigrants and do away with their nation's border and propagandizing that America is a country that should not be proud, but ashamed because of past slavery, discrimination, sexism, homophobia, meaning those things that existed in all countries to an even worse degree. Treason is mass immigration, to import immigrants who as future voters will vote predominantly for one side, so as to steal elections from the native population. As the left encourages Hispanic immigration to turn these immigrants eventually into Democratic voters, what if Trump encouraged 5 million East Europeans, Poles, Hungarians, and Russians to immigrate to the United States and gave them amnesty and citizenship, knowing the great majority would vote for the Republicans? Would leftists agree to this immigration, or would they call it treason and election fraud, which is what they are doing? The fact that non-citizens are allowed to vote if they choose to attempt it and thus change the outcome of the election in the most obvious way, because leftists do not want voters' citizenship to be checked, as in all other countries on the planet, and because judges misinterpret the law intentionally in order to prevent states from checking citizenship, is not considered to be treason or a danger to democracy. Treason can be considered for the state to borrow money indefinitely to accommodate more and more immigrants with more and more welfare and services, much like war debt, until the debt reaches the point where the country is dependent on its lenders, placing its future in the hands of bankers and other countries, like certain European countries were dependent on the decision of Germany if Germany would choose to bankrupt them or save them. Treason is dividing the nation and making half the population hate the other half by pretending that those who oppose illegal immigration are racists, or pretending that Trump is racist, as whenever Trump insults one person, a black, a woman, or more often a white man for their views, or insults criminals, the media claim he is insulting all blacks, all women, all immigrants, etc. Would real patriots agree with the leftist media attempt to create a mentality of a race war, like Charles Manson imagined? The media has come to propagate the madness of Charles Manson. A few years ago, Trump's statements against illegal immigration would have been considered completely normal. Now they are considered racist only because the media put this idea in people's minds. A person reads statements from Democratic politicians against illegal immigration, but pretends the statements are from President Trump.
I'm going to read a few quotes here from President Trump talking about the need for the southern border wall. First quote, "We should spend money to build a barrier to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in." Another quote, "We simply cannot allow people to pour into the U.S. undetected, undocumented, and unchecked." Quote, "Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple. Until the American people are convinced we will stop future flows of illegal immigration, we'll make no progress." When you hear quotes like that, what's your reaction to them?
It's divisive.
I just really think it's kind of hateful speech in general. It kind of underlies a lot of things about like discrimination and people and their prejudice.
There are racial biases.
Overall, it's just unacceptable.
It's very dehumanizing.
What if I told you these were from Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton?
Thus, the media used to accept these statements as normal, but now pretends they are racist, and does a convincing job. Is it not likely that as the secret services, such as the CIA and other organizations, essentially cooperate with George Soros, as they both fund color revolutions in other countries to bring down governments, that these two would also cooperate on bringing down the American president, whom they both do not like? Soros funds the protests, and the secret services do their part. Removing Trump from the presidency was repeatedly stated by many immediately as he became president by means of the 25th Amendment, which allows the removal if a president is unable to govern, not removal if leftists do not like his policies and his proposed wall. Is this not treason to bring down an elected government? These people included neoconservative warmongers writing for leftist newspapers.
The Deputy Attorney General offered to wear a wire into the White House. He said, I never get searched when I go into the White House. I could easily wear a recording device. They wouldn't know it was there. Now, he was not joking. He was absolutely serious. And in fact, he brought it up in the next meeting we had. But the reason you would have someone wear a concealed recording device would be to collect evidence. And in this case, what was the true nature of the president's motivation in calling for the firing of Jim Comey?
McCabe also said Rosenstein discussed how the cabinet might use the 25th Amendment to remove Mr. Trump from office.
One may choose to believe that this would have been an innocent investigation into the mere possibility of a crime or an indirect coup d'etat to overthrow the democratically elected government. Knowing that, unlike other politicians who are very careful with their words, Trump often first speaks without thinking, then thinks calmly, and decides on reasonable policies that are better than those of his predecessors. But the very fact that he first speaks without thinking means that someone recording his conversations could use Trump's words in a tricky way to show that he is unfit for office, attempting to judge him not by his actions, but by his first emotional outburst. Many politicians would then pretend that this constitutes a crime or treason. The fact that it was finally revealed that both Trump and the people of his campaign were completely innocent of any collaboration with Russia means that Trump had nothing to hide. He did not have to fear an investigation, so if he tried to limit the investigation, it was not to protect himself. It was because he knew it was unnecessary and because he knew it was being used as a political tool in the hands of the Democrats in order to undermine his presidency. Conducting the investigation or stopping the investigation was a political issue concerning political leverage, political gain. It was never a real investigation into crime and treason.
The president said he did not believe that the North Koreans had the capability to hit us here with ballistic missiles in the United States. And he did not believe that because President Putin had told him they did not.
Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris weighed in while campaigning in New Hampshire.
The idea that the President of the United States would take the word of the head of Russia over the head of the intelligence community is the height of irresponsibility.
Irresponsibility? As in open borders, voting without proving citizenship, making minorities hate the majority, and designing a civil war in Syria? Take the word of the intelligence community? Consider the legalistically camouflaged attempt at a coup d'etat, the media, Democrats, neoconservatives, secret services, and the deep state conducting brainwash, not for the usual political gain in order to get more votes, but in order to overthrow the elected government and cancel democracy. They used deception to enable politically motivated investigations whose aim was not to find evidence, which they knew did not exist, but to facilitate the media propaganda. The actual investigation was less important than the media coverage, which was the true focus. Career prosecutors and investigators chose to demote themselves to the role of squire to the knights of the media personalities, whom they essentially appointed as their superiors who carried out the real fight, and chose to demote themselves to the role of waterboy to the media football stars. The secret services and investigators moved on from using the media as lackeys to plant stories with to serving as their lapdogs. After the first attempt failed, the establishment found a second chance for impeachment and, as with Steele, once again used a career Secret Service agent to have the excuse to start the proceedings, a person who once again gave information about things he had not witnessed, but supposedly heard or was told. However, if getting information against your political opponents from foreigners is treason, and if the Democrats were correct to investigate Trump's Russian connections, then Trump is correct to investigate the Democrats' Ukrainian connections. And if he did it for personal political benefit, were these Democrats not twisting or abusing the law also for political benefit? This simply means fight Trump. 900 protests when Trump fired his attorney general, and it was many leftists who were demanding that he be fired. People do not just wake up in the morning and protest about such things. There is organization and money involved. And still, all 900 together had only 350,000 protesters in a country of over 300 million. In Europe, countries with a population 10 or 20 times smaller see far higher numbers in protests. Are these leftists ultra-patriots who want to protect their country from foreign danger? President Obama sent the CIA to design a civil war in Syria that resulted in nearly 500,000 dead and 10 million refugees. The Democrats, neoconservatives, and the secret services established, armed, trained, and funded an army in Syria, most of whose members became Muslim fanatic terrorists and a part of ISIS. Obama's policy of a soft and limited military response allowed ISIS to rule the area for 5 years. However, President Trump, by listening to the people actually fighting ISIS, chose an aggressive military tactic and destroyed most of ISIS within 1 year, and by the second had eliminated 99% of it. What is more akin to treason, destroying ISIS or facilitating the establishment of ISIS, allowing it to rule for years, and pretending that the person who stopped ISIS is a traitor? Consider, multiculturalism by means of identity politics creates in minorities the feeling that they are oppressed even when they are not, makes them feel that they are not part of the nation but a separate group that must be opposed to the nation because the majority or a large part of it, whites, heterosexuals, men, are the enemy. The left invents ridiculous demands, naming them rights, and when the majority rejects them, minorities are convinced that they are being attacked. The left convinces blacks to hate whites by telling them whites are at fault for black poverty, crime, and deaths. Actually, blacks commit far more gun crime than whites, but the police kill far more whites. Makes homosexuals hate conservatives if they do not accept boys using the girls' showers at high schools. Makes immigrants hate the native population by telling them it is a human right to cross the border and that anyone who disagrees is a racist against them. Brainwashes young people to become leftists and then makes them believe that they have the right to stop other people's free speech if they do not like their opinion. This destruction of social cohesion is divide and conquer. It is the chief weapon of traitors. Regardless of what the law formally states as being illegal, lying to the prosecutor about your taxes or being told a foreigner has information about a candidate, patriotic citizens have always cared not about legal technicalities, but protecting their country, and they have always defined treason as harming your country. The two things that harm the United States more than anything and pose the greatest danger for harm in the future are multiculturalism and mass immigration, as the latter contributes to crime, election fraud, and a dangerous financial burden threatening economic collapse through excessive welfare programs if the number of illegal immigrants reaches tens of millions, and war and imperialism, which is the other reason contributing to the danger of economic collapse and dangerous confrontations. These are the twin policies of treason and are both implemented by the establishment and its servants.